Alright, before we get into the highlights, I just want to point out that this gear is set to change over the coming weeks, over the coming months even. This is not a final confirmation of the best gear, but we have been putting in a lot of work, and we have narrowed it down to where we're quite happy with this, and we're going to slowly tweak this over time. So I can confidently say that Void Gauntlet as secondary, as of right now, is your best second option for DPS and highest damage, and will be the best option for war. Now, there's not to say there won't be other options that come up, but as of right now, Void Gauntlet is the best option. Without further ado, I'm going to show you my gear, but again, it is set to change. Please keep that in mind. And without further ado, let's get into the highlights. Before I show you the gear, I just want to say some of the highlights that you'll see later on are using some of the different artifacts, purely testing, just to see if they are better or if they are worse, and see what else we can actually pair with Musket. But the main reason you're here is to see what we have found as the best options. So without further ado, I'm going to show you the gear. For Musket, we have narrowed it down quite a lot. We've gone through a lot of different iterations. So far, we've settled on full fire damage, and there is a reason to this, but I will explain it in a second here. So we are going normal tier 5 gem with the new harnessing damage perks on armor. We have found that it is much better to run a normal tier 5 gem, so we are converting 50% of our base damage to element, and we are getting instant elemental burst damage. Dots are great, but I think burst damage is much better this patch, and we want to put our full focus into dealing as much burst as possible. With that in mind, we are going with a Vicious Flame Attunement, which is still a best on slot perk, and Keenly Empowered, as that is a just flat damage increase on critical procs. So with that said, we are pairing this with the Life Taker artifact. This is crucial to the build. Here's why. It has this exclusive perk, which applies Disintegrate on both weapons to every single ranged attack. This means light ranged musket attacks apply a 10% rend, and that can go up to 3 stacks. There's a 30% rend per player as long as you're hitting them with an auto. That is incredible. That includes abilities as well, not just auto, sorry, my bad. It is only a 1 second cooldown, which is not much. And that is why this build is so crucial. Not only that, it scales with dexterity. There's 2 ways you can take this build. You can take 350 int, which I will show you here, or you can take 350 dexterity. It is honestly pick your poison. I recommend 350 int because the passive 350 int bonus is a 15% increase to ability damage, which is absolutely game changing for this build, especially for our talent tree. I'm going to get into talent trees last because that is also another crucial part to how this build works. There's a lot of magic under the hood, and I absolutely am loving this build's DPS so far. It's some of the highest DPS I have seen in Musket ever. It is absolutely incredible. With that said, we are running 25 con. There's a reason, and it is worth running 25 con. As much as we want to go as glass cannon as possible to deal the most juicy damage, 25 con gives 10% increase to consumables. There's a direct 20% decrease in PvP. We're getting 10% back, so we're reducing that down to 10%. I think this is absolutely worth it, and it is worth dropping a little bit of dexterity for that. So again, we're pumping 350 dex, 25 con, the rest is going into dexterity. Now, there is, I believe, if you have the correct items, this would be 250 dex, but as you can see currently on the play test realm, jewelry is actually a little bit bumped, which is a little bit annoying, I'm not going to lie with you. We have to run just normal 625 jewelry as we cannot use the prismatic scarabs. This hopefully should be fixed before live, otherwise that would be pretty concerning. Now, on to the rest of the gear. We are using Mending Heart Rune of Stone Form. Again, this ties into the fact that we've been heavily nerfed on health potions. Mending Stone Form is going to instantly give you back full health. It is crucial to survivability. And when I say crucial, I mean this has saved me probably half the time in every single OPR match. It is that crucial. Keep in mind, we are playing on 300 ping in all these highlights and clips, but again, I do think that even on my native ping, I would be relying on the stone form a lot. So Mending Stone Form, I think, is crucial. Now for war, when you're sitting on a wall or you're sitting at a barricade, you could potentially drop this for a Cunning Heart Rune of Cannon Blast, or if you're playing quite passive in OPR, you could. I do like to get up there quite close in Outpost Race, so that is why I prefer Mending Stone Form, but it's entirely up to you, and that is a bit of, I guess, flexibility there in the build. There is some flexibility on the armor too, which I'm about to show you. So on armor, we are running the Ignited Firewood Gems. We are fully spec'd into fire resistance. There is a reason for this. I have been getting 2-tapped and sometimes 1-tapped by fireballs and pillars of fire. The fire stuff does a lot of damage, and now you're probably thinking, but now we have no thrust resistance. Wrong. So they introduced a new perk called Thrust Conditioning. Thrust Conditioning allows us to decrease thrust damage after taking thrust damage. We have 4 pieces of this so far. It is possible to get 5 pieces because with artifacts, you can actually change the last perk on the artifact, which is awesome. So you might have seen this in some other videos on YouTube or some other people talk about on Twitch. You can go to a gypsum kiln and you can actually configure the last perk on an artifact to whatever you want. I'm going to recommend changing this to either Thrust Conditioning or the brand new Harnessing perks. These increase your elemental damage by 2% per piece, stacks up to 5 times, so 5 pieces of armor, and is crucial to the highest DPS. So not only are we getting 2% increased fire attack damage from our rune glass, we're now getting an additional 2% fire damage from harnessing. There's an increased 4% fire damage per piece of armor. That is a total 20% increase in fire damage overall. That is game changing for DPS. Now, the last perk we are running, especially on the helmet here, is Refreshing Stopping Power. This is actually for a different talent tree where we're going to be looking at a bomber build. Now, that is going to be much later. That is going to be a later on video. This video, we're covering a DPS burst damage single target build. The sticky bomb build is an AoE build, which I will like to discuss in a separate video. Now for the chest, again, we're running the nimble leather coat artifact. This is a 15% cooldown reduction piece, with highly refreshing being its exclusive perk. It is absolutely amazing. Not only that, it also comes with another refreshing and comes with a health perk, which is just an overall plus 2.4% health increase. Next, for the gloves, again, fire harnessing. We have put crippling powder burn on our gloves and thrust conditioning. Our legs are fire harnessing, empowering shooter stance, and thrust conditioning. Again, thrust conditioning I think is going to be a very good perk for us muskets that are playing at range. Alongside that, on our boots, we are running health, thrust conditioning, and fire harnessing. So we have an overall 5% health increase as well on our armor, which is very nice. And again, I just want to make it clear, I would recommend replacing this vigor at a gypsum kiln with another fire harnessing, or you can replace it with another thrust conditioning. That is entirely up to you, and it has some flexibility depending on if you want 2% more damage or 4% more resistance. Up to you, pick your poison. Now onto the jewelry. The jewelry is actually close, but I still haven't been able to fully experiment with jewelry, again because of the bugged crafting on the playtest run, which is a little bit annoying, but I can say that health, thrust protection are still 2 important best in slot perks that you want in your amulet. Divine, this is the 3rd perk, and I'm actually not sure. Its stam recovery is probably still your best option, but I don't know, because there are new perks that I'm yet to try, and I don't actually know what the new amulet perks are. So keep in mind that amulet is definitely set to change over the coming weeks. I will let you know, and I will post an update exclusively covering updates, if that even makes sense, or specifically covering amulet in this case. Now for the ring, we are running fire damage, hardy, and burning. This is the best in slot ring without a doubt. Burning on ring makes our burn go for 18 seconds. An 18-second powder burn is insane. Not only that, since we are fully fire specced, crippling powder burn ticks up very high amount. I think I did an 18-second burn, I forgot he was burning, and I realized 15 seconds later he dies to my dot. It is incredible, and it helps a lot getting that backdraft. So anyways, the last piece of armor, or sorry, jewelry, is the Endless Thirst. Now I'm going to point out this is currently heavily bugged on the PTR and causes many issues. It causes both good and bad, so I recommend not trying this on the PTR because it could potentially brick your character into not being able to use health pots. But on live, this is the best in slot airing. Health potions are 33% stronger, but the cooldown is 20% longer. Now, Empowering Toast is also very good, and I'm going to explain why now. But this is probably going to get nerfed, and I definitely do see it getting changed. So Empowering Toast applies on any potion you drink. So we can simply grab a potion that has next to no cooldown and have an infinite 10% empower. That infinite 10% empower is ward pots. It's expensive, but if you look at the bottom of my health bar where the buffs pop up, we get a 10% empower every single time we pop that potion. That is incredible. And we get Fortify. That one isn't even, that shouldn't even be proccing, by the way. So we're getting 20% fortify every time we drink a ward potion. We're getting 10% empower every time we drink a ward potion. Now, this also applies on Desert Sunrise. This also applies on any food buff. This also applies, I think, on trade skill food. Yep, it applies on trade skill food. Any consumable with a low cooldown, use it. This is going to get fixed, by the way. This is going to get fixed. It's probably going to get limited to health pots and regeneration pots and probably mana pots. But right now, you can use it on any consumable, which is busted. It is an infinite 4% empower and infinite 20% fortify. Onto our specs, as we discussed earlier. We're going 350 in, as the final passive is a plus 15% ability damage, which is absolutely incredible. Again, 25 con, health consumables are 10% stronger. Absolutely get this. With Endless Thirst, we're basically completely removing the PvP health nerf, and we are actually getting 20% more out of it. Alright, now onto the musket tree for this build. So for the musket tree, we are running Power Shot. This is the main damage dealer, and depending on who you hit, especially if they're on light, they will lose about 2/3 to 3/4 of their health instantly. Of course, you have to meet certain requirements with the new tree. You want to be aiming down sights for more than 2 seconds to gain a 10% buff. If you can get one headshot before using your power shot, that is another 10% empower. You can also lead into it with heightened precision. You can sit at a certain range to get another 10% damage. And of course, Backdraft, our classic old 12%. We can add a bleed and 15% headshot damage from Deadeye. We can also use this in shooter stance alongside empowering shooter stance, which means we could use shooter stance, proc our empowering headshot, get our cool shot, be sitting more than 20 meters away, have hit multiple targets from shooter stance, and then hit our power shot on the last shot in shooter stance, with probably powder burn being your first shooter stance shot. Alongside this, we have armor break, weaken defense, so 10% armor pen. To that, we have debuff being powder burn. I believe that works. If it doesn't, we have disintegrate, which is that 10% rend, which I believe does count. And then that's another 5%. So overall, this is the highest DPS build, and when you meet all these conditions, it just starts to work. You're going to see that in these clips, that Power Shot deals some fucking insane damage. And I mean fucking insane damage. I still don't know what the best Void Gauntlet build is, but this is currently what I've been toying with. Obviously Oblivion, that is a massive Empower boost right there. You're going to hit Empower cap piss easy. Now, alongside this, we're using Scream. This is your really only escape ability, and you have to use it wisely. For me, it's quite hard on 300 ping, but I feel like I could make this work on live with lower ping on my home server. But I do want to mention that there is very low survivability, escapability with this build. But the DPS, as you're about to see, is absolutely insane. Without further ado, let's jump into the games.
I'm headed to the bottom of the bottle. I've been drowning, I've been floating away. Every other dollar that I got in bed, I probably went and pissed it away. I ain't fucking okay, I ain't liking it, babe. I don't even wanna talk, I'm just smoking my haze. I've been stuck in my ways, I've been stuck in for days. I've been staring at the clock as the radio plays. I'm enslaved. Yeah. Rolling another, I'm stuck in my seat from the whole control of my speech. Yeah, I've been trying to get off this couch for a minute and a whole damn week. No kidding, I'm skinny, I cannot eat. Got a million motherfuckers that depend on me. Yeah, every friend in my family. From a girl, every fan I meet myself. I'm too on till I'm too off. Come down to make new thoughts, like jumping off of that rooftop.
My brain is still going.
To make moves based on my mood drops. Like who's lost? Like who's lost? It's yo, steadily killing me, running my brain full of shame. I don't wanna lose it. Full of stage, trying to find my pain. I see something coming out of that rain. My team really not tame. I'ma never slow down. I'ma never behave. Stuck inside this prison, inside this cage. It's taking over. Yeah, I'm a slave for you.
Get out of here. Get out.
Ripping harder, more less. Never stop, no rest. Till the stress is breath in my chest. Till it's diamonds wrapping my neck. Progress to a god from a goddamn mess. Hopeless, more tests. More blessed. Dug deep down trying to find my best. Find a beast, had to kill a conquest. I'm next. I'm too on till I'm too off. Come down, make new thoughts. Like jumping off of that rooftop. Hold my devil when I do nothing to make moves based on my mood drops. Like who's lost? Like who's lost? It's yours. Steadily killing me, running my brain full of shame. I don't wanna lose it. I'm full of stage trying to find my pain. I see something coming out of that rain. Minds ain't really my tame. I'ma never slow down. I'ma never behave. I'm stuck inside this prison, inside this cage. It's taking over. I'm a slave for you.